Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Luo. I'm the editor of NewYorker.com, and I'm just really thrilled to welcome you all here to this event. Welcome you on behalf of the magazine, and this is going to be a wonderful conversation. Just a few quick housekeeping notes. You can tell the world that you're here on social media. Our hashtag is NewYorkerFest, and don't forget to silence your phones. We're going to chat for about an hour, and then after that, we're going to do some audience questions. You can text the number on the screen throughout, and we will try to get to as many as we can. So now what we've all been waiting for is this incredible panel. The folks on stage with me really require no introduction, but I really want to give each of them a moment their due, and to celebrate them and to give them a proper introduction. The title of our panel is Identity and Craft, and these are all masters of their craft. So David Chang is the founder of Momofuku and Major Domo Media. Yeah. He opened his first restaurant, Momofuku Noodle Bar, in 2004. Since then, he has received 6 James Beard Awards. He has been recognized as a GQ Man of the Year. He's a Time 100 honoree. He also produces a lot of content that I've been consuming. He is the host of the podcast, The Dave Chang Show, and Recipe Club, and 3 documentary television series, Ugly Delicious, Breakfast, Lunch, and Dinner, and The Next Thing You Eat. His 2 cookbooks, Cooking at Home and Momofuku, and his memoir, Eat a Peach, were all New York Times bestsellers. Lee Isaac Chung is a director and screenwriter who grew up in Lincoln, Arkansas, on a farm in the Ozarks. His first feature film was a Rwandan family drama. I looked up the pronunciation. You're going to have to correct me, Isaac. Munurangabo?
Munurangabo.
Okay. Which premiered at Cannes and won the Narrative Grand Jury Prize at AFI Fest. His other feature films are Lucky Life, Abigail Harm, and I've Seen My Last Born. His most recent film, Minari, a semi-autobiographical film about a Korean-American family in Arkansas, received an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress and nominations for 5 other Oscars, including Best Picture. Min Jin Lee is the author of the novels Free Food for Millionaire and Pachinko. The latter of which was a finalist for the National Book Award for Fiction. She is a writer in residence at Amherst College and is currently at work, let me flip the page here, on her 3rd book in the trilogy, American Hagwon, and on the nonfiction book, Name Recognition, a memoir of visibility and voice. In August, she was in Seoul to receive the Manhei Grand Prize for Literature. Sandra Oh is an internationally acclaimed actor and producer. She has starred in and served as the executive producer for the television series Killing Eve, in which she played the MI6 agent Eve Palestri, and The Chair, in which she played Dr. Ji-Yoon Kim. We also, of course, know her from her 10 years as the cardiothoracic surgeon Christina Yang in Grey's Anatomy. Her film work includes lead roles in Turning Red, Sideways, The Diary of Evelyn Lau, Double Happiness, Last Night, Under the Tuscan Sun, Catfight, Uma, and Dancing at the Blue Iguana. O's stage credits include starring roles in Death and the Maiden, Satellites, Dog Eaters, and Stop Kiss. Thank you all for being here. So we're going to do our best to have a conversation here. I have some questions for them, and hopefully this kind of unfolds organically. I'd love to start by talking about your respective crafts and how you've approached your artistic choices that you've made in your career, and in particular, how you're thinking about those decisions at this moment. And Sandra, since you're closest to me, maybe I could start with you. You've been on such a journey. You moved to Hollywood as a young actor from Canada. And as I understand it, as I've read, you were actively dissuaded from working in the industry, struggled to even land an agent, and now look at where you are today. I mean, you were part of the procession at the Queen's funeral. Extraordinary moment. How are you thinking about the roles you take on now, and how has your thinking about this evolved?
Sure. Anybody here an actor? Yay. Okay, so I gotta tell you, when you start out, you don't really have much choice unless you are very, very, very lucky. And even that, I think you struggle to learn what choice is. So I'd say that I wasn't really able to make choices in my career until probably through Killing Eve. Okay, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of time. So,
30 years?
Yes, yeah.
20 years? 30 years.
20 years. It's longer than that. It's longer than that. So it's like when you start out, right? For me, I started out young. I started out doing like commercials and, you know, government films, right? So you just get any experience that I could get, right? All I wanted to do is act. So I did improv, I went to theater school. You're just amassing stuff. I was just amassing as much experience as possible. And then with that, it's like you try and make your choices as much as you can. You have to pay your bills. You have to eat. You have to take care of yourself. So that is first, right? And then, you know, it's like I've played lots of things that there are stepping stones. Do you know what I mean? I have played, you know, prostitutes that have no dialogue, and I have been cut out of the movie. You know, I played extra best friends. You know what I mean? I just took what was available to me and tried to make it as meaningful and as memorable as possible. So I think after the success of Grey's, I took a break to try and try and exercise real choice, right? And that means creatively being on, God, what would you call it? Like just being on the ball creatively, you know, which is a very amorphous, tricky thing, but I took a long time to do it, and then I found Killing Eve. And I really will only say through that process, and I feel like, honestly, after Crazy Rich Asians, did I feel a change in my career with the choices I was able to make, and then also from my own personal focuses. Because now I feel like all I'm interested in is telling Asian American stories, meaning that my characters in the past have not necessarily had their history, their family, their race, their culture explored. And now that's all I'm interested in doing.
Isaac, maybe I can come to you. What's incredible to me about Minari is that you were really at the end of your line
I'm usually at the end of my line.
That you were about to hang it up, I think, and I think you said in an interview, do something practical. And then Minari obviously became this critical success and just won award after award. And so what are you going to do now with that? How are you thinking about your choices now? I know in Hollywood it's sometimes a little complicated talking about what's next, but how are you approaching that decision?
Yeah, I'm obviously it's an opportunity bigger than I could have imagined for myself. Like, I've been making independent films up until Minari. Everything's been, you know, very small budget, driven by interests and basically what I could accomplish, given the means that I have. I actually had a great conversation with Min around the time of the awards run when we were doing all the Oscar push and all that stuff. And Min said a couple of things that people have said to her that she wanted to impart to me that were bad. Okay, so I think one was like someone told you with your next novel, now that you made your first novel success, with your next one, don't make it about Asians. And then another one is don't make it about women. And because these are mistakes. Sorry if I'm taking away from what you might share, but for me that was so profound because I did feel like a certain, I don't know. I would hear every now and then someone saying, you want to come out of this box that you're in, and that means like the Asian American or Korean American box. And I found what Min said was very liberating. That it's not a box. In some ways, I feel liberated to try to make films that are just simply about me or about the people I love, and see where I go with it. So yeah, I've got different films that I'm kind of working on. I'm doing this and that, and writing as well. But I think I'm also with Sandra with some of that stuff. Like my first projects were not necessarily about Asian Americans, but I do find myself really wanting to go there with it on a very personal level. So that's kind of the script I'm working on now and just finishing up.
And we should actually maybe pause because Minari obviously probably deeply affected all of us here on stage. Many people here in the audience actually skipped the New Yorker after party, the festival after party, to watch it again last night, and I was in tears. And maybe we could actually take a moment to kind of talk a little bit about what that movie did for you. Dave, like, do you remember how did you first watch Minari?
I remember watching with my wife, who's here, and we saw it, I think, with her mother-in-law, my mother-in-law, and it was I think it was a screening, and I wasn't expecting. I'm friends with some of the people in the cast, but I wasn't expecting to be moved as much because I saw my life. Even though it was in Arkansas, even though my family weren't farmers, it was just the littlest things, like the hominy with the suitcase, bringing all these things, the videos, the stories that were being told. For me, I just never thought I'd see that on film, and it like brought me to tears. It was amazing.
You can applaud for that. Definitely, agreement for that. Dave, I'm guessing most people, when they interview, start out talking about Momofuku Noodle Bar. I'm going to switch it up and ask you about a little project, Fuku, your foray into the world of spicy chicken sandwiches, which are probably not good for my cholesterol, but I ate many of them. You explained in your memoir that the name was a riff on Momofuku and a phonetic FU. My kids are in the audience, so I'm not going to say, to everybody who took us for granted, mocked us, and made us feel lesser for how we ate. And you said you lined the walls of Fuku with posters of stereotypical Asian sidekicks and villains from cinematic history, and you printed the words delicious all over its sandwich wrappers. And you wrote, I'd hoped to weaponize the racism I'd experienced as an Asian American person. And then you also said that the experience of opening Fuku only increased my appetite to undermine people's ideas of American identity. Tell me what you meant by that, and tell me how you're thinking about what you're trying to do through food in this moment.
Yeah, so the genesis of Fuku is way too long to explain, but internally at the office, they would always say, this is Dave's art house project. Even though we were trying to do something incredibly populist. It was not even something that was supposed to be taken seriously. Because if it was, I don't know if we would have made these decisions. Like Alvin Leung, this amazing character actor that plays Asian bad guys in every movie, like Die Hard, things like that. These are things that I grew up watching, again, which is why Minari was so important to me, because you're seeing Asian American representation in a completely different light. So I don't know how it all happened, but all of these bad ideas of what we were going to do, how we were going to serve it, it was sort of uncompromising. The name, Momofuku clearly is a reference to many things, but also the swear word. Fuku was even a more direct reference to the swear word, F-U-K-U. And I knew before we even did it, when we put on the packaging, this aluminum foil packaging that we would put the chicken sandwiches in, that no one would say anything. No one would comment that it was delicious. Nobody did. And that should tell everyone about the gatekeepers, about how information, at least in food, was transmitted. Nobody talked about it. It took a few years for some journalist to be like, hey, why did you do that?
Wait, really? No one talked about that?
Nobody.
Why do you think? Seriously, why do you think? Let's talk about it. Let's talk.
Because
Scared.
it doesn't matter to people. That's why. Legitimately, I feel like it doesn't matter to the audience because it's already laughable. We're already the punchline to a joke. And I remember this, I won't say where, because it could get me in trouble, a lot of corporate sponsors, and we were there showcasing something, and a bunch of corporate executives that are all very well known were giggling like little school children, saying delicious to each other. And I was like, this is my art house project.
And how does that connect up with your approach to what you're doing now? You've opened, I think, 15 restaurants at this point. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what are you trying to do through food now?
I think everything I've always done has been trying to do an expression of what I think food could be. And it's not, I've never said our food is Asian. I've never once said it's Korean. I've always said it's American. It's everyone else that tells me it's Asian, it's fusion, it's Korean. And I think what we've done is an amalgamation of everything. But that's what Korean culture is in a lot of different ways as well. So I think even since 2004, that first restaurant has been an exploration for me of what it means to be Asian American, Korean American. The restaurant we opened up in Los Angeles, Major Domo, it's actually a Korean restaurant, but nobody knows that. When we opened up Nishi in Chelsea, that was a Korean restaurant. We were making Italian food with all Korean ingredients, but nobody knew what the hell we were doing.
I think you said that you admit that Nishi was your first kind of outright failure.
I would say yes, but also we were just sort of ahead of the curve because that's pretty much what many restaurants are doing right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited by that because it's not even just having to be Korean food. Like Korean food right now, the second wave is just kicking ass. I mean, I think 5 new Korean restaurants got a Michelin star for the first time today. It's never been better to be Korean in a lot of different ways, but Korean food is so in demand. 32nd Street doesn't even make sense to me anymore. It really doesn't. I cannot fathom how different it is than when I first started cooking. It was not cool. If you were going to make Asian food, there was 2 kinds of food that you were going to make. Southeast Asian, because some French chef lived in Thailand and brought it back and merged it so it could be cool. It's French with Asian accents. Southeast Asian accents, or Japanese. That was it. No one would even consider making Korean food serious, but it's very different today.
Somebody did message me on social media and said that I'm hosting the Korean American Super Bowl, but I'm the Chinese guy here. So, man, I know you're working now on American Hagwon, the 3rd book in a trilogy that includes Free Food Familiars and Pachinko. The common theme is the Korean diasporic tradition. You told me once that you're interested in the formation of the modern Korean. When you think about it, that's an incredibly bold choice to sign to write about the Korean diaspora over the course of 3 books. What made you think you could do this?
I'm an idiot. Well, you know, it's interesting. I had this tremendous opportunity to get this prize in Korea, so I was in Korea in August, and one of the nominators is like a kind of a fancy person, and these nominators have to write these kind of long letters supporting your candidacy for something, and I didn't know her. So she comes up to me and she goes, I want you to know why you wrote Pachinko, and not a Korean person from Korea, and not a person from Japan. And I said, tell me, because I'm endlessly asked this question. And she said, it's because it was too hard and you didn't know enough, which is the same thing as saying I'm an idiot. It was too hard because she knew, because if I had known better, I would have figured out that it would take decades, which is what it took. And I think that if you were Korean from Korea and you had studied history in Korea, like a Korean person in South Korea, or if you were a Korean Japanese person, you had studied your history in Japan, then you would have realized just how complicated it was. And I think that I had this sort of naive American idealism. I can do this. And that's what happened. So I think that in a way, just to reiterate how stupid I am, I don't really think I'm stupid, but I think in this I was really stupid because it's too big and everything is taking me too long and my publisher is not happy.
And now you're actually writing another book, which I think is a little bit of news because I interviewed you a little bit less than a year ago, and I don't think this existed. And it's a memoir, name recognition, and memoir, and visibility and voice. First, what are you hoping to do in the memoir? And second, how are you writing 2 books at once? How does that work?
Well, okay, I'm going to tell you the truth. I was asked to write like a very easy collection of essays because I've written so many personal essays, and all I had to do was kind of like staple it and sell it to you. But then I looked at it and I thought, that doesn't seem okay to charge money for something that you can have already. Like my inner guilt kind of kicked in, and I said, it would be so much more interesting if this was a memoir. And my publisher said, yes, because memoirs are actually easier to sell. And then I realized, oh no, that's more work. I know, dummy. So I thought about it and I said, well, what is it that I really want to write about? And the thing that I really wanted to talk about is that until I was almost in middle school, I didn't talk hardly at all. My older sister is here somewhere in this audience and she can confirm this. So I had essentially no friends. I did not do very well in school, actually. I did fine. I know you're kind of thinking, like, but you went to a fancy college. But I figured a lot of this stuff out in high school after I learned how to talk. And I thought, oh, I'm going to talk about what it means to be visible and what it means to talk. And then I thought name recognition is this concept that's so important today. And when you think about all of us, I mean, I am the most famous person here, obviously. But I was thinking about how in the history of the world, what really gets me is that all the people who really I love, you don't know who they are. And that just kind of breaks my heart that so many people that I love don't have name recognition. So I'm working on that. But to answer your question, how am I working on it 2 at the same time? Actually, I can't. So I bumped up American Hogwan because I'm almost finishing up this draft right now. And this really, really brilliant professor at Stanford, I was talking to her, and she's almost 70. And she has managed to stay married, managed to raise 2 sons. And I said, Shelley, like, what's the story? Like, how do you do all this shit? Oh, sorry. I forgot their children. Sorry. Mike actually asked us in our group text not to cuss.
This is true.
Yeah.
Glad it was you first, not me.
I know. And I didn't expect that the Sunday school teacher would actually be the first, but it was me. Anyway, to go. So then I asked Shelley, how do you do this? And she said something, and I want you guys to take this away. Okay. She said, you can do many, many things, but sequentially. Right? Yeah. So I don't multitask. I do things sequentially, and I do things really slowly.
So wait, you're saying you're almost done with American Hogwarts?
No, I'm actually finishing a draft, which I might end up throwing away, which you know I do that. So, but at least like, but I can't get to draft 2 or draft 3 or draft 4 until I finish one at a time.
So you're going to put that aside and then start typing the other one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk about craft and particularly about mastery with you all. As I said at the beginning of this, you're all masters of your craft. But I also feel like you're really deep students of your respective crafts. And I'd love to hear a little bit about how you acquired this mastery. And maybe Sandra, we could start with you because you have a theater background. I think I read at one point that you have a whole process for getting kind of interior with your characters. So how does that work for you?
That point about student, I think, is extremely important. I don't think I've ever lost that. And you know, for me, I started acting when I was about 10, and honestly, I have done nothing but. You know what I mean? It's like I don't have any other skill, man. It's like I really don't. But I love it. I love it. And there's been certain points in my career, in my life, that I went back to class. Anybody here watch HBO and ever saw me in Arliss? Anyway, so I moved from Toronto to the States to do that show, and it was the first time I ever did television. It was a half-hour comedy show, I guess. And I was so bewildered by it that I immediately needed to go back to class. And this is actually not that long after I left theater school. But I felt so derailed by the process of television that I needed to go back to class. So I went back to class in a very, very kind of generic acting class kind of way, kind of generic way. But I was there for years. And then I would say probably right after, you know, the first 6 episodes of Grey's Anatomy, I was like, I'm not going to survive this. Because it's just a different type of grind, and I needed to try and find a continual creative source. But I was ready at that time to not go to class. It's like I already know how to act. I wanted to do something deeper, different, like get deeper into the creative process. So I happened to find, through Mary Kay Place, God bless her, my acting teacher. And I'm not going to go too much about it, other than it's a wonderful company of creative people. We meet regularly, and the type of creative work is really off the map. It's not linear. It's really esoteric. And I love meeting in that space, because that space is like forever. Right? You have a script, you have to do this, you have to memorize it, blah, 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 blah. You know, there's lots of steps, but the magic and the creativity is all the stuff in between. So you got to practice on how you reach mystery, right? And that just doesn't come. I will absolutely say that. This stuff doesn't come without like you wishing on it or thinking that inspiration is going to come, because yeah, it might every so often, but you need to practice that muscle to find your creative space, and however that is. And I'm interested to hear from everyone here. Where do you go to find that kind of creative space? Because it is not, for me, it's not on this plane. You know what I mean? Either it's like, Dave, you were talking a little bit, which I really deeply understand, almost like a point of pushing through something, like getting to a place of like, I can't figure it out, and having to push through that. I really understand that, because I feel like that has happened to me creatively again and again and again, and trying to figure out how to trust that place, because ultimately through struggle, a third thing that you could not possibly have thought will come. And so it's practicing, trying to figure out what that space is and to get stronger muscles from there.
Are you actually kind of going to class still, like when you're at work
absolutely.
on a show, like
absolutely.
The Chair?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, for each project, you know what I mean, I will meet, and then I'll do my process, I'll workshops. Because it's also, I'd say that practice is my main work. It's like I get to be able to put that in projects, but I realize now that working in that trying to get to that mysterious creative space, it's also like really hard to talk about it with suddenly not feeling kind of self-conscious, or kind of like it's very mysterious, but it is mysterious. And I think the place of creativity and mastery comes from understanding that space.
Dave, do you want to pick up on Sandra's kind of nudge for you? I mean, the thing that's interesting to me about it is that you actually are very self-deprecating about your skills as a chef, and so yeah, what is it? Do you go to class?
I'm by far the worst student here. I have a complicated relationship with the word mastery, because I was brought up to never be told I was good enough at anything, right? And that's a neurosis that I'm still trying to unwind. But simultaneously, I can have the biggest ego in the room too, right? That I'm constantly fighting to temper, to make it smaller. And I can tell you it's a weird thing, because when I look at the great chefs, or I think of my close friend Corey Lee, 3 Michelin star restaurant, one of the best chefs, maybe the best chef in America, is the restaurant Benu. we're the same age, and I've always looked at him like he was Mozart and I was Salieri, because he's just the baddest. He's so amazing, and everybody knows that. So for me, it's like, I can't do that. I got to find something else to say. And I think I'm a really good cook, but I don't think anybody's going to say I'm a technical, perfect chef. There's certain areas I'm really good at, and I think my strength is knowing what I'm bad at, and then finding something to say with the food. And I don't know how, a little bit like you, Sandra, it's hard for me to articulate because it's a hot mess of a process. But I'm usually trying to find an idea and perfect that idea in a way that I own. It's my process, whether it's a restaurant or it's a TV idea, and try to find it, is it actually a good idea, or does culture think it's stupid, and ask myself, why is it stupid? Is there data to support it? Have I done the work, et cetera, et cetera? But mastery is not something I feel comfortable.
Can you actually be more a little specific about the figuring out what you want to say and what that looks like? Like with Major Domo, what were you trying to say? And what does that kind of look like, and how did you kind of figure that out? Is it like sitting around brainstorming? It's in the shower? Like, what does it look like?
I like to whiteboard things out, and I really like information. I like to test hypotheses out. For somebody that seems like he's scatterbrained, I like to have some kind of regimented process. And a lot of it is just this concept that I learned in college way back when. I was a terrible student, but it's really been an important process for me. The early Christian theologians used to have this idea called via negativa, right? If God is ineffable, then if God isn't this microphone, God isn't this auditorium, the more you would meditate on it, the closer you would get to God, right? This is how crazy my mind works. That's how I get to what I want to do creatively. I start whittling away all the other nonsense. And Major Domo was, okay, I'm not in Koreatown. I'm somewhere in between Chinatown, Frogtown. What can it be? So I start going every iteration of the dishes that I want to make. And then I'll have an idea for a dish, and I'll write it out, and then I might make it. And then I start piecing it together and be like, how does that feel? So I think about, sounds crazy, how people leave the restaurant. How are they going to talk about it? How are they going to consume it? Not just the food, but how they remember it. And that's how I wanted to make Major Domo was, oh, people are going to identify me as Korean. And if I make Korean food, I'm going to get shit on by Korean people, right?
Uh-huh.
So I can't. So how do I make Korean food that doesn't look Korean whatsoever? Mm-hmm. And that's what the opening menu of Major Domo was, like extremely Korean, but we hid all the stitching, so you couldn't tell what it was. You know, one of the early dishes was braised short rib, right? So one of the popular things in Seoul and in LA is kalbi jjim, braised Korean short rib, and they melt cheese on it. Mm-hmm. Do a tableside with a torch. Well, I believe that everybody wants to eat delicious things, and most people, regardless of your culture, are going to wind up making the same thing anyway. If you go to Switzerland and you get raclette, they put it over meat. So I was like, oh, this is a Swiss dish. So we would tell people, this is braised beef with raclette. And, you know, we'd tell people, oh, it's very, like, Swiss influenced. But and it's interesting because people were like, well, this doesn't make any sense. Yet, if I was at Sunandang in Koreatown with mozzarella cheese and a flamethrower, it makes sense. So I like messing around. Messing around with that. I don't know if what I said made any sense, but it's a convoluted process of me getting to that point.
Isaac, as I understand it, you kind of went through a process of study before you made Minari that you were, I think, I heard this actually in a conversation you and Min had, where you kind of went back, you had a particular style, particular influence, and then maybe you figured out it wasn't quite you, and you actually went and tried to figure out how particular films worked, and what was that like before? And that was really important for the end product.
Yeah, it's funny that I think that's where my mind went as I was hearing both of these guys talking about, you know, how they've kind of arrived at what they do. I also have, for the record, like hearing mastery like that really It makes me feel so uncomfortable somehow. Like you picture a guy on a mountain, or somebody just standing up there with robes on, and for me, it's like I always feel like I don't know where the top is, and I hike a lot, and I never know where the top is. I always think it's just over the hill, and I find I got to keep going. For me, I made 3 films that were largely improvised. Those were my first 3 films. I kind of went in there with maybe an outline of what I was going to do. And I'd shoot very rapidly. I was very influenced by people like Kiarostami, Wong Kar-wai. These were like my heroes during film school. And it just wasn't quite working out. Like it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. I wasn't finding what I wanted while I was on set. So I realized I need to learn how to just write a script. And that's where Minari came from. But the process was very long. I think I made that decision around 2012 that I need to really learn how to write. And I wrote maybe 2 or 3 screenplays that are in the trash can somewhere that aren't very good. But each day I would go to the coffee shop in the morning, and I would just spend maybe 2-3 hours on just writing. And it was just chipping away at things. I have this inherent problem with being a perfectionist, so I'm very goal-oriented. I've got to know what that end goal is. So that's my constant battle, where I have to put into place a process of just doing the work and then eventually finding that, oh, okay, now I am pleased with what I have. And then I feel like somehow it's finished. But the problem is, I think even now, like after Minari, I've been writing for the past couple of years. I'm still like lying in bed, and my wife's a therapist. So if any of you are a therapist and you're married to a neurotic artist, you know what it's like. Yeah, thank you. Like even like 2 nights ago, I told her, I think I am really scared because I've just been focusing on the end product, and I'm not just going back to just working towards that product. And she's like, yeah, I knew this stuff like 15 years ago. She's not very impressed with my sudden wisdom.
It really is. I mean, because you were a bio major at Yale. You grew up in rural Arkansas. I think I heard that 10% of your class went to higher education, college. And then you got to Yale, and I mean, you think you're a good writer, and then you're like, no, I'm not. And now you are a creator, an artist, a writer. I mean, is that kind of self-doubt? That's what was hanging over you? Is that still hanging over you?
I think so. I mean, I kind of feel like everyone deals with this. Every artist deals with this self-doubt. I have one of my mentors who I've kind of been working with recently. He was telling me, I asked him, like, I noticed you make decisions very quickly. And is that intuition? And he said 100%. And he said it took him a while to trust that intuition. And then I said, oh, so how did you beat that self-doubt? And he's like, no, you never beat it. And it's always there. And you just form this relationship with it. You need it. That doubt has to be there. So I think things like that, that's the way I see things. Like that doubt is there. I don't want to beat myself up for that. But just learn how to put it to use, I guess. That's what I'm still figuring out.
And Min, I mean, you were a history major, corporate lawyer, and then you quit to be a novelist. Didn't have an MFA. Like how, and you had your own kind of bootstrap sort of literary education. What did that look like? And are you still learning?
It's really interesting. I keep hearing, I really wanted to come here today just to listen to them. And what I love about this conversation is when you hear the words, what is it that you want to say? Right? And when we think about outcome, the thing that I really care, and I tell this to my students, because this is the funniest thing. I went to college and I majored in history. I went to law school, became a lawyer. I don't have an MFA. And I took a lot of cheap classes in community centers, mostly in New York, to learn how to write. And I am now an English professor at Amherst College. No. No. You shouldn't clap. You should feel sorry for these children. Because I don't know if they figured it out yet. But and I did fine in English classes in college, but I still haven't read Spencer. So, and Johnson. So if there's English majors here go like, oh, yeah. Anyhow, but the thing that I really care about is what is it that I really want to say? And then what I really think about is what do I really feel? And what do I want my reader to feel? The feeling is very, very important. And I remember I was trying to do this bootstrap education, and I thought, I had once worked at the Metropolitan Museum of Art bookstore when I was right the summer before I went to college. To make money, I worked as a cashier at the bookstore at the Met Museum. And when I got my first paycheck, I bought the collected volumes of Vincent van Gogh's letters. It's a very, very fancy, beautiful book. I think it was 3 volumes, put out by Bullfinch, which is an art publication. And I was reading these letters that Vincent would write to Theo. And I remember thinking, there is something so wrong with this guy, but I love him so much because he was telling the truth all the time. He was telling the truth in a way that you wouldn't like him. Like if you met Vincent van Gogh, you probably wouldn't talk to him because he was really strange, like a very strange person. He was too sincere. And I just connected with this kind of awkward, unacceptable human being because I realized what he cared about was telling the truth. And I tell my students at Amherst College, I know I can't teach you all these other things these professors can teach you, but I can teach you how to tell the truth. And if I could teach you how to tell the truth, then I can make you into an original person. Because if you tell the truth, you are an original person. Because whatever you had to do to get into this frickin' college, and how many people that you killed, hopefully you didn't kill yourself and whoever you're supposed to be. And what my job is to teach you to remember who you are. And if you can remember who you are and what you value and what you love, then I can make you a truth teller. Because the world needs more truth tellers. And one of the things that I really love about every person on this panel so much, because to me, they are really masters of what they do. And I mean, I know they're going to be like, but they really are. And even, especially Mike, because Mike and I've had these conversations about art and writing. And I think it's so hard to tell the truth. But the world, I mean, that's what we're really hungry for.
Amazing. Let's talk about this moment we're in for Asian Americans. There's a line in Kathy Park Hong's book, Minor Feelings, where she writes, "When I hear the phrase, Asians are next in line to be white, I replace the word white with disappear." Obviously, that line spoke really powerfully to a lot of us, spoke powerfully to me. But Kathy's book was also published just before the pandemic. With the surge in anti-Asian attacks and all of the attention that is drawn for Asian Americans, the writer Cleo Chang recently made this point in a profile of Hong in New York Magazine that things have shifted. Suddenly, we're seeing Asians become very, very visible. The concern seems to be different now. It's not about invisibility, but how people wield this visibility. How have you all experienced that shift? Sandra, I'm going to ask you about that.
Yeah, sure. Part of my job is to be visible. You know what I mean? But I'll speak to this. It's like it's honestly it's to get deeper into the work, right? When Min was talking about truth telling, you got to get even deeper and even more specific. So I'd say for me, it's how you show up in this moment, to this front row, to the next row, to the next row, to the next row, which hopefully, if I do my work, right, seeking the truth, getting strong in that kind of, spiritual tiger kind of way, right? Then hopefully you will feel it. That's my job as an actor, right? If I'm truthful on stage or in a film or whatever, what I'm hoping is that you will feel it. Whatever I'm trying to do is that you will feel it, and you will feel what the character is feeling, maybe weak, maybe strong, all that is, but true, right? So going to the larger question, for me, it's about fear that I feel like I want to help move us through in this period, because there's a tremendous amount of fear that is going on. And, you know, after the murders in Atlanta, I was shooting a chair, and then I was just in Pittsburgh. Anyway, I was moved to like go and be with people on a corner. I was just like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be on a corner somewhere, and I invited my cast and my crew. And what I felt was, it's like we are not alone. Even if you're feeling frightened, we're not alone. If you choose to be alone, you can. You just need to reach out, right? That is, but to learn how to reach out is to learn how to be. What is it? Knowing yourself, being truthful to yourself, right? I'm kind of talking all around it, but I guess what I'm saying is, I think everyone here on this panel is working hard to be true, right? Working hard to mine something true in all our respective professions, because when we are, and how we give it to you is hopefully helping you do that. Right? And when we all do that together, then I think growth and movement can happen. And hopefully for me, when we're talking about what's going on for us right now, it's about moving through fear. Fear exists, right? There's a lot to be frightened about, but it's how we're going to move through and deal with that fear. Again, that whole thing is like doubt, self-doubt's never going to work. The mastery is how you deal with the self-doubt, right? It's like how you start gaining more skills about doing the doubt. And so hopefully we can start having a little bit more mastery of our fear.
I mean, maybe a little bit more specific and concretely. Killing Eve was the first time you were approached to be a lead, to be the lead, and you didn't have to audition. You were just given the part in your 20-plus year career. It seems like your choices are different today than they were a few years ago. I'm wondering, though, it seems like what I've heard from you is that the industry is changing, but still slow. What is your sort of sense of what it is like to be an Asian American actor right now, and the choices that you have?
No, I will say, I mean, it's taken a long time. It's taken me a really, really long time to actually feel a shift. But I do feel like I felt a shift within the last 4 years. And that's because I feel like I have had much more access and much more power to make decisions. And also that the industry has opened up to then going, oh, I'm just going to call some of my Asian American playwrights who can hopefully write this television show for me. Because it's like, I would say not even like 5-10 years ago would I ever even think to say, oh, I want to meet with this person or this playwright to try and make a show. I just did not have that power yet. And also our industry has shifted so much. There's a lot more content. There's a lot more hunger for different stories. So it's an amazing thing. But going back to actually something that we were talking about, what were those 3 words that you liked? The excellence, the what, and what? You said 3 words. It was really, really good that I thought. So, God, one was excellence, and the other was authenticity. What was it?
Accuracy.
Accuracy, authenticity, excellence. Just say something like that. No matter whatever is, that has to be behind the work, right? Because if you don't have that, and I'd say also truth. Truth is most important, right? Because it's not going to penetrate. It's not going to penetrate, I feel like, if you don't have those things. You can have, like, it could be good, and, you know, but it's to penetrate. And that penetration is the only way that things could possibly change or have an actual influence in culture.
I mean, Isaac, I feel like you are kind of getting education about how Hollywood works now, at the age of 40 plus. Like you're you know, what have you picked up of what it is like as an Asian American director?
Yeah, I mean, add to that an Arkansas guy who's trying to navigate it. I don't know what to compare it to. Like, I've been kind of working outside of it for so many years. And in a way, like, whether it is out of the truth of the situation or if it's me self-limiting, like, I did feel like there was no entry for me for many years. And I do feel like now there are more opportunities, but with that comes some strangeness. Like, I think I'm sometimes sent things to possibly direct, and it's only because, like, this one character is Korean, and you know, I would have no interest of this story otherwise. But the way that films are staffed now, you know, they're paying more attention to these things.
Do you like that you're actually sent that though, or are you annoyed?
I'm ambivalent, I guess. Like, there's a part of me, I've never been sent things, so I'm like, should I say yes to this? Like, holy cow, someone sent me something. So there is that. But yeah, Steven gave me a great advice. Steven Yeun, after he left The Walking Dead, he said someone told him, in Hollywood, no one knows who you think you are until maybe a year after, a year from now. So it takes a year before people in the business catch up to who you feel you are now. And I kind of feel that too. Like, I do feel like, you know, navigating the system, the things that I am sent, I do feel like, oh, I'm in a different place in life. I'm in a different place of what I want to do. And so in some way, maybe this is what we're all called to. We just have to do what we feel we got to do on our own to a certain extent. We got to make things happen. And I keep getting reminded of that as I work these days.
Dave, I know you have strong feelings about, in the food industry, who gets to define fine dining and kind of, you know, who gets to define kind of quality and assign value. You wrote, who gets to assign value to certain foods, what makes something acceptable or not. Why was MSG villainized in Chinese restaurants but fine when it occurred naturally in Parmesan? Where do you think the food industry is on this question right now?
I think the same story is being repeated over and over and over again until people actually listen, and it's happening. But I actually think that food themes are changing because of social media, because the gatekeepers just, honestly, no offense, they don't matter anymore. They don't. And I'll give you one example, and whether people are doing it because it's a dare or not, it boggles my mind that this is something I never thought people would even eat. On social media, TikTok, people are eating gejang. Kangjang gejang, like raw marinated crab. I would say half of people are like, oh, this is gross. I don't want this. It's delicious. But now a lot of people, the fact that it's even happening, this is like, I thought, future food. That's like 35 years out. And now that it's happening, that gives me hope because people are open, and it's a conversation that's happening in ways that people can't control. So I feel very optimistic about that.
Min, when you and I first met, it was in 2017, 18-ish. I had read Pachinko, then read Free for Familiars, was blown away. And then privilege of being an editor at the New Yorker is you get to write an email and say, hey, maybe let's have coffee or something and talk about writing. And the reason I think back to that was I really feel like your profile and who you are was different then. There's something that has happened with you and your visibility in this sort of moment in the pandemic and the anti-Asian hate, and you've really sort of spoken up. You're a real sort of connector. You're a real sort of, you're not afraid to sort of speak your mind. What do you think has happened as in your kind of, it's not like you've written any new books, but something has kind of happened about your kind of place in this kind of moment?
I'm actually magical. No, it's really funny. And you haven't written any new books, and you're absolutely right, because I take a really long time. I don't know what's been happening to me in the past couple of years. It's really curious, but I've been writing for a super long time, and people are starting to really pick up things. And it, like, Free Food for Millionaires was nominated to be a New Yorker book. I mean, it's not New Yorker, the magazine.
New York City.
The New York City.
Chose it, yeah.
To be chosen. It was a finalist, and it didn't win because Patti Smith beat me.
This was the New York Public Library. They're going to read this as a city.
Exactly.
Together.
It was a city.
Which is amazing.
Which is a city, and it was like years and years and years after the book came out. And when the book first came out, it did very well. It made my publisher happy. It made me happy. It gave me some time to work for longer. But what was interesting to me is that I remember a lot of people said to me, "We don't like the ending." I'm not giving anything away because it doesn't really affect the plot. But I was kind of critical of Wall Street because the book is really an indictment about neoliberal capitalism. That's what Free Food for Millionaires is about. Free food for millionaires. Like, I don't think millionaires should get free food. Get it? And it kind of broke my heart that at the time people were most upset that my main character was critical of capitalism and in terms of her trajectory, because I thought that Asian Americans, especially at that moment in time, should have more choices besides law, finance, and medicine. Like, I was saying this in 2007. But what's interesting is now people are like, of course Wall Street should be criticized. And by the way, I have many, many friends who are from Wall Street, and sometimes they're nicer than some writers who I know are real jerks. So it isn't about just the industries. It's really about what you feel is a natural choice. Anyway, what has happened to me, part of the things that I've become more vocal about has a lot to do with the fact that I'm a real New Yorker. I'm really from here. I'm from Queens. I went to high school in the Bronx, and my parents had a little tiny wholesale jewelry store which sold costume jewelry to peddlers on 30th and Broadway, and I've been held up. I've seen my father get held up. I've seen him get mugged. We've chased people from stores and who were trying to kill us. And I remember what that was like. My parents had a newspaper stand, and I know what it's like to be terrorized and to be afraid physically. So when the things happened in the past 4 years against Asian Americans throughout this country, for me, it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to be quiet and hopefully the police will take care of it, because they were not taking care of it. And yet, I also think the issue is incredibly complex because our governments, both federal and state, have really abandoned those who need mental health issues. People who are being incarcerated, for example, were being given medication, but then when they were released, they were no longer getting medication. But I still had to deal with this issue of race and gender. So after the pandemic in 2020, over 11,000 incidents of hate were reported against Asian Americans. Just last month, 2 people were murdered in Los Angeles. One was a store owner. He operated a wig shop, and he was murdered because 2 teenagers were stealing a blonde wig, and he chased after them. And one of the teenagers stabbed this Korean man to death. So that was just 2 weeks ago. And then last week, a Filipino man who worked as a liquor store clerk, 4 kids came in, 2 girls, 2 boys, and they were minors. And when he tried to apprehend them for stealing a case of beer, one of them hit the Filipino man, who was, I think, 68 years old, over the head with a scooter that they were carrying, and the man died. So is it about race? And my question to you is, when is it not about race? So was that premeditated, or is it because people think that we're weak? And I'm just saying, I want it to be back part of the conversation. So instead of immediately dismissing it and saying it's not about race, I'm saying maybe part of it is about race, because all of us have intersectional identities. I tell my students that every one of your characters has class, race, religion, education, sexual orientation, and to leave any of those things out is basically you didn't do your homework. So thinking about it politically, I think that we have a more complex history, and I talk about it. And because I'm talking about it, it is bringing more attention. I'm very uncomfortable talking about it. But I think that being an older person, like I'm the oldest person in this panel, I don't mind, really. I hated being young. And I'm really glad to be alive. I am. I mean, I could be dead. I had a very serious liver disease. So, but all I'm just trying to say is that I don't mind saying these things. I hope I don't have to talk about it forever. I know that you're writing a book about Asian American history from the 19th century, and what's interesting is that so little has changed in terms of how pernicious xenophobia seems to always rear its ugly head every single time we have economic insecurity. And as we are in a recession right now, as we see inflation, as we see higher interest rates, all those things, we will find targets. Yeah. A governor in Texas just sent busloads of migrants to New York City. So we now have to feel allegedly uncomfortable by having people who are undocumented seeking asylum in the city. And these are political issues. And the fact that these are black and brown bodies and yellow bodies is not an accident.
Amen. It's the audience question portion of the evening. And so I have a bunch here that I'm scrolling through. Somebody wrote in that noting that several of you are parents, and the question is, what is the best way as creatives to encourage your children to create without overwhelming them? Several people texted me that they were bringing their kids today, so I thought it was an appropriate question. But I also, it relates actually to a question I was going to ask you all about your relationship with your individual parents, because each of you had some of those issues with your parents saying, no, this is not a stable way to make a living. And one of the questions I had in my back pocket was, are your parents now proud of you? But anyways, who wants to take a stab at that question about how advice for your raising kids to be creative?
That's such a cool question because I was never encouraged as a kid. So whoever is asking that, kudos to you. The funny thing is my girl, she's 9 years old. She might be watching now, but I asked her, do you ever want to be a filmmaker? And she said, no, Dad, because then I'll be always wondering, is it any good? Is it any good? So I'm trying to get, yeah, no. The thing is, she's so creative already, and what I do with her is everything she does, like honestly from the depths of my heart, I just praise it because it's so lovely, the things that she's making. So who knows what? Yeah, I don't want to pressure her to become an artist the way my parents pressured me to do what become a doctor or whatever, but. Yeah, I think just giving them freedom, I mean, that's what all artists kind of hunger in a way in this process of figuring ourselves out as artists. So, yeah, that's what I'd say.
Dave, your kids are too young to aspire to be a chef or an artist or creator, but have you thought about this?
All I know is I understand why my dad worked so hard to make sure I would never work in restaurants. And to echo Isaac, I just want to give my boys the opportunity with my wife and our family to give them choice, right? That's I think the best thing I can do for them is to love them unconditionally and to make sure that whatever they want to do, that I'm behind them 100%.
And your parents, when you started in food, what was that?
My dad thought it was a hobby. When are you going to wake up and do something serious? That was something he would say over and over and over.
But he lent you a lot of money.
Yes, he did. But he wanted to see that I was committed crazy, and to do it. And that's when it switched for him. He's like, oh, you're doing this, and there's no turning back. Now I had a relationship. That moment I had a relationship with my dad. Before that, not really.
So I'm not going to go down the whole line here. Just so we can get to more questions. How and when do you temper the expression of your Asian identity in your work? Do you want your Asianness to always be considered as a core element of your creations or as a tertiary part of the overall product and project?
Well, it's really interesting because I almost feel like, how do you not discuss your ethnicity and race? Like, when I walk out the door, I don't leave my Koreanness at home. Like, I always find that whole thing about proximity to whiteness to be laughable because people don't see me as white, and also it's not an aspirational goal for me. And I don't know why it should be. So, and I say this out loud because I know that that's not to say that white supremacy does not exist. It does exist. So if you are an attentive person and you see that only white people are getting goodies, then you're thinking, oh, maybe then I need to be like that. But I kind of think you have to ask yourself, one, what are these goodies? And what would it take for you to forsake your ethnicity and race and gender and sexual orientation and so many things that are really truly about you in order to get that thing? And I think, is it really worth your soul? So I think about that quite a lot.
I think that takes a long time to figure out.
It takes a very long time to figure out.
I mean, there was a related question is, have you ever wanted to create art that's not about your identity and not been able to? Have you ever wanted to create art that's not about your identity and not been able to, been kind of held back? You want to take that, Sandra?
I feel like I kind of understand that question. I feel like I don't understand the end of that question. I'm going to start with the beginning of that question.
Yeah.
I think that I think that I work from a place of absolute like selfhood. I don't think I can divorce. There's so much that I will never tell you is behind these characters. Do you know what I mean? It's definitely me within breathing life within those characters. So I feel like I'm always trying to explore. Again, even when I was saying in the smallest parts, you know, you don't have any dialogue and you're like the second prostitute to the right. I am trying. No, I seriously, I took that job really seriously. I did. I took that job really seriously because I thought someone is going to get this job. Someone's going to get this part, and I think it should be me because I'm going to give it 1,000%. Because it's just like, if the camera just pans over my face, I want someone to think, what is going on with that character who has no lines, you know? But that stuff ends up building. So I think that I've never not created based on somewhat exploring my identity.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Isaac, when you're thinking about your choices next, like, I mean, that might be, I mean, because you told a very specific story, a Korean American story, an immigrant story, a farm story, and I suppose like you could think of Minari as not an Asian American story, but a farm story. I think that's actually the way you first conceived it. But when you think about your next project, is it possible to conceive of it without thinking about something specifically kind of specific to you in the way identity is?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think a lot of times those definitions of who we are, those are brought from outside in. That's an outward sort of gaze at us. And I try to just really be clear about what am I interested in deep inside. And maybe it's not a Korean story or a farm story or something like that, but why am I very interested in this? And that's inevitably, that's tied to something deep within myself that I hope is true, you know, that is deeply important to me still. So that's kind of the way that I think about it. I try not to think about it in terms of permission, if that makes sense. Like, I think that's limiting.
We only have a few minutes left. I want to end with this question. This really does feel like a family event. You're all here as part of our family, but there's kind of a community here on stage. I think one of the reasons there are so many people here is that they relate to you and see you all as trailblazers. And when you first started in your respective fields, it was a lot more lonely. And a panel like this probably wouldn't have been even possible. I'd love to hear from each of you, and I kind of throw this as a popcorn sort of thing, about what that kind of early days of being kind of alone was like, and what this kind of group here and the fact that this kind of group can exist means.
I was really excited about this panel because of who's on this panel. I think I've done a gajillion panels. And then there was a part in my career where I stopped doing the panels because it's just like I can't be the only Asian person who says the same thing again and again and again, or the only woman, you know what I mean? For me, it was like, it didn't feel sincere. It didn't feel, and also, look at this audience, right? It's like my people weren't there. My people weren't there in the audience to be interested. It's just a different time. I think it was very lonely. I feel like it was also when you're representing, but you're also feeling, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, tokenized a lot. And then I had to kind of really move away from that because it's like I feel I'm always very, very, my spidey sense are always very high when someone is trying to use me in everything that I've created in my career. So, but this is also like, what I want to eventually get more down and dirty about it is everyone's creative process. It's like, again, now we've all been, let's say, lonely separately. Now we're all together and we can really talk shop. And I think this is also why you're here, is you want to really hear people talking shop and not just, lip service.
I think that's, do I have any follow-up thoughts to that? No? You all talk so much. Dave, come on. You talk for a living. Your podcasts are like 80 minutes long.
I will say that when I first started cooking, it was a very different world. Yeah. And there was only one chef that was Asian American, and his name was Alex Lee, and he was the chef at Danielle. The reason I idolized him, he was the only one in New York. He happened to also be one of the very, very best. And now if you look at kitchens and the restaurants that are here today, it's night and day. It's not even something you can even make a comparison where people would even believe you that it's true, right? And it's just the beginning. I think it's all changing, not just in food, but every facet of culture.
Isaac.
Oh. Yeah, I was just thinking before this thing, when we were coming up, I was so nervous. And the reason is like I care so much. Like, just to be on stage with these guys, it's so touching and such an honor. And also, yeah, the feeling of community. I think each person had to really break out of many different expectations and work on their own. Like, we all had to go through that individual journey, I think, to be here. And it's just, yeah, it's great. It's amazing.
And man, I'm going to give you the final thought because you are the great connector and in many ways the kind of origin of this panel.
First of all, I really want to thank everybody for being here. And then I also want to thank Mike for doing all this heavy lifting. He was doing so much homework on you guys, on us. It was kind of embarrassing. But the thing that I guess I want to say is that all of us have gone through the wilderness. All of us in our separate ways. But then we're also surrounded by people that we love who love us. So they don't get a lot of recognition. And so even though, yes, it was lonely, but I couldn't have done it without my husband or my son or my parents or my sisters and my friends who just really believed in me. And I think that sometimes the thing that I really see, and this is, I really want to leave all of you, the creators in here with this, is that very often I'm asked, will you mentor me? Will you teach me the ropes? And I'm always like, it's so tempting to think everything is vertical. Like, if this person lifts me up, then I'll get there. But in my experience, it was all the horizontal relationships that really carried me through the dailiness. So please, reach out across as well. And that's where I found my strength. And those are the people who are with me when I fail. So I just want to give all the love that you give to us. I really want to thank you for being here.
So that's all the time that we have. I'm sad because, I could talk to these guys for many hours. And just really grateful for everyone here for attending, for supporting the New Yorker, for supporting these great artists. Subscribe to the New Yorker. We really appreciate it. Support the journalism that allows us to have a festival like this. And thank you.